Hey everyone, welcome back to the Movie Couple channel. I'm Wendy and this is my review for The Woman in the Yard. Ramona becomes crippled by grief after her husband dies in a car accident, leaving her to care for her two children alone in her farmhouse. However, her sadness turns to fear when a woman in black appears on her lawn with a warning, "Today's the day." As the mysterious woman creeps closer and closer to the house, Ramona realizes she must protect her children from the woman who simply won't leave them alone. I've seen the trailer and I was pretty intrigued by the premise of what they were showing us in the marketing. A random woman shows up draped in black, like head to toe in black, sitting in her yard. No explanation of where she is from, what is she doing there, but she does speak, and you can see that in the trailer, with one warning: today is the day. What does that mean? I was really intrigued, especially since this woman, in this horror film, uses the shadow, her own shadow, when it elongates to kind of essentially haunt these three people that are in this house. However, I will say, after seeing this movie, it is not the movie that you think it is, and it is not the movie that the marketing is having us think it is. And I worry that it might hurt the movie a little bit. And I'm not saying that they bait and switch you. The first half of the movie is certainly rooted in horror. There were definitely parts where I was covering my eyes. Like I was saying earlier, the woman in the yard uses the shadow as a way to kind of lengthen her reach into the house, and she, with the shadow, is physically able to not just touch objects, but she can also touch the humans inside this house, which makes it really frightening, and it leaves everybody essentially like, how do you beat a shadow, right? So you can't create light because light creates shadow. So you're essentially having to fight this entity in the dark, which I feel like is so clever, because a lot of horror that we know, we associate that with the dark, because the dark is scary. You don't know what is coming, where the scary thing is, and that sort of amplified my anxiety during those scenes. And I thought that the movie, starting out, did a really good job kind of laying the basis of the situation that these three people are in. We have Ramona, the woman who is mourning her husband after a tragic accident, and her two children who are also in mourning, but you also see the dynamic has completely changed because of this tragic accident. So Ramona isn't really able to, physically she is also hurt. Emotionally, mentally, she's not there, and she is not ready to kind of return to being a human because she is so weighed down by her grief. So you see that dynamic change where you can tell that she's had a good relationship with her kids, but this accident changes everything, and now she has outbursts. She is angry and she is sad, and the kids and even Ramona herself don't really know how to sort of live with that. Which brings me to the second half of the movie, and where I was talking about it's not what I was expecting. There's so much mystery shrouded around who this woman is. Why is she there? Why is she saying these certain things to Ramona? And she, in the movie, seems to know about the situation, about the accident, about the dynamic and the relationship between Ramona and her kids after the accident. And things got pretty scary and intense once the woman's shadow was able to reach the house, and that's when a lot of havoc was happening. But aside from that, we also kind of saw this other element that I wasn't expecting, which was reflections within the mirror. And I love it when movies use that as well, because I think it creates really good scares, really cool dynamics in the movie, and different tricks on the eyes for the audience is looking for something that is there or isn't there. And there's just a lot of meanings when it comes to one's reflection and the use of mirrors. Anyways, the woman in the yard is now kind of, using the shadow to its full potential. She is fully going after these three, and they seek safety in the darkest part in the house. And that is where the movie kind of makes a switch, and it's a really interesting transition, because they don't offer sort of an explanation to you. They sort of leave it so that the audience has to figure it out in a way, and some people could like that. I appreciate the effort that they put into it. it's just very abrupt because suddenly you are no longer, it feels like you are no longer really watching a horror movie. Now it's kind of taking a turn into more of a psychological film, which again, I don't mind because that is also very interesting and really good. But that transition was a little rough. Like, I kind of leaned back in my chair and I thought, oh, that's an interesting like sharp left turn of this movie. So now that I've said this, I am going to issue a little bit of a spoiler warning. If you want to go into this movie completely cold, I feel like you might want to pause this video and come on back after you have seen the film. So I'm issuing you that now. If you want to go ahead and X out of this video and come back later. If you are staying, I am going to assume that you are staying because you are okay with spoilers. So here we go. The second half of the movie transitioned to, oh, I should also issue a trigger warning for self-harm and self-exit because that is overall the theme that they are leaning into in this second film. And as we go into it, you're realizing that this entity, this woman in the yard, is a manifestation, at least that's my interpretation of it, of Ramona's grief and guilt of what happened with the car accident and losing her husband. So with the metaphor of it all, the woman knowing that today is the day, knowing everything there is to know about the accident, about the dynamic with her kids and how that's changed. And I would even throw in a little bit of why Ramona maybe isn't facing the truth of exactly what happened prior to the accident, because she's afraid to, and the mirror comes into play. She doesn't want to kind of like look at the reality. She can't look at herself. So it's really interesting. And I appreciate that so much because I thought by the time we got to the end of it, it's really thought-provoking. And it's a very creative and unique way of taking the car accident and how one can feel grief and depression and guilt, and ultimately leading to the thought of self-harm and self-exit. However, I feel like with the marketing of it, it's set up for a horror film. And again, the first half with the shadows and everything was really good. I just feel like a film like this could potentially, like, it kind of needs a trigger warning, which is why I issued it before I started talking about it. So meanwhile, I did like this movie. I just thought that that transition into the second part, kind of the reveal of the bigger plot and the message of it all, was quite abrupt. Like almost they didn't know how to transition into it, so they just threw the audience right into it, and it's leaving it up for audiences' own interpretation, which could be good or bad. I overheard some sort of comments as we're walking out of the theaters. You know, people talk about the movie and they kind of like speak about it as everybody is exiting, and I feel like half the audience got it. The other half was kind of confused because they're still thinking that this entity is a supernatural thing, which I guess it still could be, but it was really at the bottom of it. The movie is an examination into the inner demons of depression, grief, guilt, and how that could lead to self-harm or a self-exit. So I enjoy the performances. I enjoy the cinematography of it too, especially, you know, using light and reflection and mirrors and shadow as a scare tactic. I thought a lot of it was really effective. I thought the performances were really, really solid. I think my main issue with it is the second half of the movie and the transition of it all. And I think it's going to leave a lot of people scratching their head than I like to think, but I don't know. I think they left it very open-ended without giving too much away. So you can go and see it for yourself if you're okay with that. I am going to go ahead and rate this movie a matinee. So with that said, let me know your thoughts on The Woman in the Yard once you've seen it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.